The Three Knocks created and written by Elias Del Rio. Chapter 2. The Arrangement Room. The funeral home looked smaller than I expected. Maybe it was because I had imagined a place that felt larger than life, or maybe grief had a way of making everything seem different. I turned off the engine. For a moment, neither of us moved. The silence inside the car was almost comforting. It meant we didn't have to go inside. Not yet. I looked through the windshield. The building didn't look frightening. There were no flashing lights, no crowds, no overwhelming sadness spilling through the front doors. It looked ordinary. Red brick, white columns, fresh flowers arranged neatly beside the entrance. A small bronze plaque mounted next to the front door. If I hadn't known what went on inside, I might have mistaken it for an office building. "I guess this is it," my sister said quietly. I nodded. "I guess so," I replied. Neither of us reached for our car door handles. Not right away, at least. It felt strange. A week ago, I didn't know this building existed. Now it was the place where we would decide how to say goodbye to our parents. My sister finally unbuckled her seatbelt. "We can't sit here forever," she said. I looked at the front entrance one last time. "I know," I replied. I opened the door. The morning air was cool against my face. For a moment, I simply stood there. The funeral home was quiet, peaceful, almost too peaceful. We walked toward the entrance together. Neither of us spoke. Every step felt heavier than the last as we approached the front door. I reached for the handle. This time I didn't hesitate. The scent of polished wood and fresh flowers greeted us as we stepped inside. Soft instrumental music drifted quietly through the lobby. Everything was spotless. Everything was organized. Everything felt calm. A woman behind the reception desk looked up and offered us a gentle smile. "I'm so sorry for your loss," the receptionist said softly. I managed a small nod. "Thank you," I replied. She asked us kindly to take a seat in the lobby. "Our funeral arranger will be with you shortly," the receptionist said. We sat together in silence. The lobby was beautiful. Comfortable chairs and couches, fresh coffee, a box of tissues resting neatly on the corner of a table. Photographs of the cemetery grounds decorated the walls. I couldn't help but wonder how many families had sat in these same chairs. How many had walked through these same doors, believing something like this could never happen to them. A door at the end of the hallway slowly opened. A man in a dark suit stepped into the lobby. He smiled warmly. "Whenever you're ready," the man said. I stood. He extended his hand. "First, let me say how deeply sorry I am for your loss. I'll be helping your family today," he said. His handshake was firm, gentle, practiced. The kind of handshake someone learns after delivering the same condolences hundreds of times. "I know today isn't easy," the funeral arranger said. "We'll take everything one step at a time." He led us down a quiet hallway, past framed artwork, past softly lit wall sconces, past closed doors, until we reached a small room. A round table sat in the center, 3 chairs, a folder, a pen, a box of tissues. He waited until we were seated before opening the folder. "When you're ready," the funeral arranger said quietly, "we'll begin with some basic information." He glanced down at the first page, then looked back up at me. "Can you tell me your father's full legal name?" he asked. The next 2 hours passed in a blur. Questions I never imagined having to answer. Names, dates, addresses, the clothes they would wear, the music that would be played, the words that would be printed beneath their names. Every answer made everything feel a little more permanent, a little more real. Sometimes neither of us spoke. The only sound in the room was the scratching of a pen against paper. Other times, the funeral arranger would quietly apologize before asking another question. He never rushed us. He simply waited, giving us all the time we needed. By the end of the meeting, the folder that had been nearly empty when we arrived was filled with signatures, initials, forms, decisions. Our parents' lives had somehow been reduced to paperwork. The funeral arranger closed the folder. "I know today has been difficult," he said. "If you need anything before the service, don't hesitate to call." He handed me a business card. I slipped it into my wallet without looking at it. We thanked him. Or at least I think we did. Everything after that felt automatic. The walk back through the hallway, the receptionist offering a quiet smile, the heavy front door opening as we stepped outside. The afternoon sun was brighter than I remembered. Cars passed by. People laughed somewhere across the street. Someone was mowing their lawn. The world had continued moving. Ours hadn't. Neither of us spoke during the drive home. The radio stayed off. The silence between us said everything we couldn't. When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly as we had left it. Nothing had changed. At least that's what I thought. As I unlocked the front door, I noticed something resting on the welcome mat. A beautiful bouquet of deep red roses. Fresh. Their petals looked as though they had just been cut. I looked around the neighborhood. There was no one outside. "Did someone leave flowers?" my sister asked. "I don't know," I replied. There wasn't a card, no ribbon, no note, just the bouquet. I picked it up. The stems were cold, not cool from the air, almost frozen. I stood there for a moment, staring at them before finally bringing them inside. I placed the bouquet on the kitchen counter. That night was completely normal. No knocking, no strange sounds, nothing. For the first time in over a week, the house felt almost peaceful. Maybe the funeral arrangements had given us some sense of closure. Maybe we were simply exhausted. Before heading upstairs, I glanced toward the kitchen. The bouquet was exactly where I had left it. Its deep red petals stood out against the quiet stillness of the room. I turned off the lights, locked the front door, and went to bed. When I opened my eyes, sunlight was already spilling through my bedroom window. For a moment, I simply lay there. Something felt wrong. Not in the room, not in the house, in me. It took me a few seconds to realize what it was. There hadn't been a dream, not a nightmare, not a memory, not even one of those strange dreams that disappear the moment you wake up. Nothing. It was as if the night had simply stopped. One moment I was lying in bed. The next it was morning. The hours in between were gone. I told myself it was just exhaustion. Grief does strange things to people. Maybe my mind had finally shut itself off. I didn't think much of it. Not then. I walked into the kitchen and found my sister already making coffee. "Did you sleep okay?" I asked. She nodded. "Yeah," my sister answered. I poured myself a cup. "I didn't have a dream," I told her. She looked up. For the first time that morning, her expression changed. "Neither did I," my sister replied. Neither of us said anything after that. We laughed it off, blamed the stress. But as the day went on, I realized something that bothered me even more. I couldn't remember the last time I'd slept without dreaming.